Hey now, happy vibes, my friends. Welcome back to my podcast where I believe in spreading killer vibes that light you up and give you that kick in the ass to craft the life you wish to live. This sacred space is dedicated to the lovers of all things business, travel, and lifestyle. Hey, it's about time you get the scoop on the latest vibes, so let's get to it. Today we're talking with our favorite guest, Mr. Elatassi. Everybody knows him as my husband, but I call him Mr. Elatassi or Mr. E.
Yep.
He just celebrated a birthday, and as every year goes by, he continues to create business thunder wherever he goes. Today he's here with me to talk about the first 5 steps in starting a house flipping business. Welcome again, Mr. E.
Well, thank you for the invitation. Glad to be back.
Yeah, I'm so grateful that you're back. You're one of our favorite guests. Everybody wants to know what Mr. E is thinking and what he's doing.
Well, I'm humbled.
So today I think we wanted to talk about something that we've been doing for the last year, and it was something that came about because of the pandemic, to be honest. Neither one of us were home flippers before that. We have been in business off and on, for me, but for you, you've been a businessman since 1999.
Really since I was not a businessman, but I've been around my parents and their businesses since I was a kid.
So you've been around it your whole life.
Yeah, since I was 8.
Did you ever think you would be a house flipper?
No, I never thought I was going to be a house flipper. I always wanted to do something in real estate, mostly on the commercial lines. I always liked the cerebral component to commercial. The house flipping is more creative, but also has a fun component to it.
So let's talk a little bit about what you do. So, Mr. Elatassi, right now you do real estate development.
Just call me Rusk.
I know. I wanted to make you very proper. You're my guest. Okay, you are a developer. So you do commercial development.
Yep. So I had an auto repair business, as some of you may have listened to on the other podcast, for 20 years that I inherited from my parents when I had left college. And so you fast forward 20 years, got kind of tired of it, sold the dirt, and decided to do what I really wanted to do when I had the idea probably maybe 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so I partnered up with a couple partners, and we decided to do some commercial real estate, building retail centers out there. Right now, what we're having is one in Porter and another one we're working on in Conroe. Just broke ground. The Porter property is completely leased out. It's on the market. And Alicia and I have various investments in hotels and Virgin Islands and some mobile homes and apartment complexes and just different kind of passive income deals. But those aren't developer deals or GP deals. Those are strictly limited partner deals.
Limited. Yeah. And I think I want to use the word that you use all the time, which is redeploy. And I think that's what you did with the money that you got from the sale of your business and the land. Yep. And then you redeployed it to a variety of real estate investments.
Yes.
It was a development, but then through the pandemic, we pivoted. I think we made like a little right turn to do house flipping. And I think we purchased our first house was April 2020, correct?
Yes, between you and I, the first one we did was April 2020.
First one we did together.
Yeah, we were bored, and the commercial thing kind of came to a lull as the entire world came to a stop. And
I had closed my business, so I wasn't doing anything, and I needed something to do.
Yes, and that's kind of that was the beginning of the story, and here we are.
So
it's kind of taken off.
Yeah, and it's been amazing. I think we're on our 4th house now.
Yes, we are.
And so crossing our fingers that everything turns out good. So today I just want to talk about the basics of house flipping. We're not going to really go into like real detail, just kind of like a little bit of a broad sense of what it takes to kind of get started in your own, because I think we get a lot of questions, and I know I get a lot of questions on how do you get going? What do you need to do in order to get it going and to flip a house? So let's talk a little bit about, point number 1 and deciding whether you're going to have a partnership, if you're going to go solo on it, if you're, just kind of like realizing if you have, the I guess the time, the money, the effort, or the time, the motivation to go on it solo. So how did you decide that you wanted to partner up or that you wanted to go solo? Like, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, so it's obviously easy partnering up with your wife, especially if you've been married for 20 years. But, partnerships are not for everybody. They have to be. There has to be a good symbiotic relationships, like everybody knows out there. It's hard working with other people, especially when they have different points of views. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I've been on both sides. Partnered on the commercial side. Also partnered. I did some flips with another partner prior. Before you and I did it together, and it doesn't always work out well because.
Yes, I'm glad you're saying that.
Yes, it doesn't. It's not an easy deal. It doesn't. everybody has their own circumstances. So it almost has to be like all the stars have to be aligned for a partnership just to be easy, not even for it to work out. And, for example, if you have ultimately the best partnerships are when you both have two strengths and you have some weaknesses, and those strengths kind of overcome each other's weaknesses. So, for example, the partners that I have on the commercial side, they know how to build a retail center, but they're not much the retail guys. They're not kind of the face of the operation. And then that's kind of where I come in, but I don't know really how to build those retail centers. That's kind of where they're doing. So there's some pros and cons, and that's kind of how a partnership should work. But they're not easy. There's a lot of bumps in the road, and there's a lot of
expectations. How do you make a determination on who's a good partner for you? Besides, of course, we've lived together, but how do you find other partners for your other ventures?
Everything has to be communicated up front. You must think of all the possible details that you can think are going to be issues for yourself. You must communicate your expectations of what you expect this investment to bring at the end, and there has to be all complete transparency. And if there's any kind of doubt in any of those three, don't partner up with somebody. Because it's just going to be a rough ride. If they're doing something behind your back, they're not communicating, they're just regular stuff that you do, almost like you find in friendships or in marriages or whatever. It's just a business marriage is what it is.
What it is, yeah. It's a lot of negotiation that's going on back and forth and meeting in the middle. The
best partnership is when you guys separate your roles and you trust each other, not to step on each other's toes.
Right.
You do this part, I do this part, and you must completely have 100% trust. Of course, you guys can kind of say, hey, you know what, I think this might be a better idea, but more often than not, 95% of the time, you must let them do their thing and you do your thing, because if you guys think you have a better idea in every little detail. Defined roles, yes.
Yeah. But I think a lot of people think that, if you flip a house, it's an automatic potential for profit. And a lot of times it's not a lot of profit, and it's not quite as much as people think it is.
No, it's not. It's definitely not something that, this is passive income we're talking about. This is not something that you're going to make a living off of. This is strictly money that you have in a savings account. If you want
like another stream of income on the side from whatever else you're doing.
A better return than what you have currently. If you don't have the risk for the market, you don't have, your savings account is giving you 1% or 0.5% return. This is what you do. It's just like going to stock market. The only difference is you have slightly more control than the market.
And so step number two, how much money do you need in order to start investing and start flipping houses?
Well, so there's two ways. You can do lender financing, and most lenders are requiring 20 to 25% down. That's standard, loan to value kind of formulas. But the easiest way is obviously going all cash.
Going all cash.
It's easy. It's easiest to buy a property all cash. It's easiest to get to the process of closing on a property much quicker, because if you have a lender's going to require appraisal values. They may even require inspections of the property.
There's a lot more challenges and obstacles to getting the house. Right. And what is another advantage of doing it cash besides winning the bidding war?
Well, you don't have carrying cost. So you're not under a time crunch to sell the house quickly or to rehab the house, because that's not for everybody. I've come across people in the house flipping industry. They take their time. They do 3, 4, 5, 8 months on the deal. That's not how we operate. I like to get something out in 30, 45 days max. But when you have carrying costs, that's obviously eating at your profit. When you have to pay the bank back, you're in interest on the loan. So that's another advantage. But the other advantage is there's so many flippers out there in Houston, particularly.
Okay.
And if you can get ahead of everybody else by doing cash, 7 days, quick close, really no contingencies, maybe a quick inspection period, and you can even do away without the inspection period.
Okay.
Simply by just kind of feeling out the house for yourself, and you kind of gain that through experience. And you kind of throw that all at the seller, that you don't have any kind of contingencies. You want the house, there's a great likelihood you'll get it.
So there's like a big dose of confidence that has to be there in order for you to be able to do something like that. And I think that's something that doesn't come easy for a lot of people.
No, it's not.
I think a lot of us will walk through something. I know I'm that way whenever I walk through a house that we're thinking about purchasing. I have to feel it out. I have to feel that there is potential in that house.
Yes.
It's like people say, does it have good bones? Like, I need to see that it has good bones, and that those bones are going to give us something in return.
Right.
You know, not necessarily just because it's in a great area, great neighborhood, but there could be tons of problems. And we went through maybe one house not too far from where we are in the Memorial. Was it Memorial area? Can't remember that we saw it and it was great, but the amount of money that we had to put into this was at least $100,000.
Right.
So
But
what do you gauge would be average?
It's not the amount that you have to put into the house.
Okay.
That's the second part of the equation when you're going into flipping a house. Half of it, the way we do it is half is gut instinct. You walk into the house, you feel out the neighborhood, you kind of have a general idea through experience of what it costs to rehab a house, just from the experience that you had before. But even if you don't know, you can, you're going to learn as you go. That's just kind of the reality of the things. But you realize that it needs, you live in a house, you kind of know what other houses that are on the market sell for in terms of what it costs, in terms of what the style that you need.
Okay.
And then you kind of apply that style based on what you kind of see out there. You apply it to how the house is, what you would need in that particular house to get it going. That's the gut instinct part. The other part of the equation is to do the numbers. And so obviously you have to look at what the house is selling for.
Okay.
Then you have to do the comps. There's two ways to do comps.
All right. And that's going to lead me.
Yes. There's two ways to do comps. One of them is strictly you go to the Harris County Appraisal District or whatever county you're in, and then you look at what that house is selling for, and then you kind of look at what other houses are selling for in that street or in that area, and that's the basis. That's the bottom line, because typically the appraisal district is lower than what the actual houses are selling for. So, for example, if a house is selling for $150,000, that's what seller's asking, but you see on the appraisal district it's $180,000, then you got some room to work with, because the house will probably sell for 15 to 20% above the appraisal district's ask. The other way is really to team up with a good realtor. Comps are available to the public, but the realtors have a lot better connections with the comps. So that's the other half of the equation. So then you run the comps, and then you run the appraisal district and how much the house is selling for and what you estimate the cost of the house is going to be.
Yeah.
The average, that's called the after repair value, the ARV.
Right.
And what you're looking for is about anywhere from a 10 to 20% return. 15 is average.
10 to 20%. And that leads me to step number 3, learning the market.
Right.
Not just purchasing a house when you like it and you think about it and you're like, oh, I'm in love, I'm getting it. There's a lot of components that need to be there. And you talked about condition of the property.
Yes.
You talked about what they're looking in terms of their asking price.
Yep.
Because sometimes they're a little too much for what we want to pay. What they're looking to sell, the ARV, obviously the after repair value. Do you consider neighborhoods? Do you consider
yes, neighborhoods are huge.
Location is huge.
Real estate's always about location,
always,
right?
Yeah.
But you even in some of the less appealing neighborhoods, you can possibly still make money if the price of the property that you're buying has enough of a margin to do something with the property. So, for example, if you go to a neighborhood that is not necessarily, let's say, the Heights, or you go into like Oak Forest, something really appealing, but you go into something that doesn't. There's a market for everybody out there. There's an economic demographic for everything, and
especially in Houston,
you can make money doing a house for $50,000 that you buy for $75,000. You put $20,000 into it, and you sell for $130,000, $140,000. That all works as long as you do the math and find out that $50,000 house, after you put in $20,000 to $30,000 into it, will sell for $130,000 to $140,000.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter where the neighborhood is. People get too romanticized about, I have to do it in the Heights. I have to do it
Memorial,
West whatever, because those houses will sell easy. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's all an equation. It's all a formula. If you make 12% on the house in a lower socioeconomic neighborhood, 12% house in an upper socio, it's still 12%.
Yeah, and I think we came across a situation where we wanted to do a house, and we still have it on the market actually, and we wanted to do a house in my old neighborhood in the north side. That house was just, I think I romanticized the idea of going back to my neighborhood and purchasing a house in my neighborhood, and I convinced you to come and let's test it out. Let's see if we can find a house over here in this area. Of course, everybody told us the houses were selling for a really great price. Things were looking up in that neighborhood. It wasn't the Heights, but it was close enough to the Heights that you could get a really good resale value on these houses. And I think this house was probably the most difficult and the most challenging in terms of all the problems that we encountered when it came to contractors and when it came to location as well.
Sure.
And that's what's struggling right now because even though it's been listed for a month, it's still struggling to get there.
Well, it's not. We knew that this house was going to be a challenge. And not to float our boat. We wanted a challenge because we wanted to kind of get away from the mid-century cookie cutter homes. We wanted to do something on a different side of town. We had said this many times at the beginning that this house was going to be a challenge because we knew the street was a little dicey. The neighborhood was not for the masses. It was more of a niche.
It was very specific.
It was very specific.
Niche,
it was a niche neighborhood. Yeah. It's really close to downtown. It's really for a couple that it just is looking for proximity to their work, not necessarily somebody that lives in town, somebody that's coming out of town.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody that's going to live there for 3-4 years. It's under contract. So it was different, and we wanted to do something different. We wanted to challenge ourselves, and it's only been on the market for 30 days. We've had a lot of showings. But
it's a beautiful house. It's a little bungalow.
Right.
It's super cute, very cozy.
Right. But to Alicia's point, that's one of the pitfalls of doing this.
One of the challenges of doing this.
Is really the contractors. You really got to develop a rapport with good work, and you have to pay them sometimes extra to keep them because everyone's busy these days. Everyone's doing this. The residential market is super hot, and trying to get somebody to come into work for you is a challenge in itself.
I told the girls yesterday at the business mastermind that I had, I said sometimes we just say, hey, you finish on time, you come in on time, and you'll get a bonus. Like, I think sometimes with these contractors, we just have to be super let me throw some money in your face right now so that you can get it done. Because it's the most difficult thing, and that's going to lead me to number 4. And that's number 4, and step number 4 is building your network of contractors and real estate professionals.
Sure.
Oh my God, that is like such a huge component. And people think, I'll just hire my cousin, I'll hire my tío. No. I have a friend who does electricity. He's an electrician. Like, oh my God, you have got to really, really know who's going to come in and do these houses for you.
Right, because it's going to bite you.
I can't stress that enough.
It's going to bite you in the ass. It's going to cost you in the long run. I always had a saying, don't work with family or friends. Yeah. You got to work twice as hard for half the money. And so it's not.
I want that quote on a T-shirt.
Sure. There's benefits. They'll give you a deal. They may cut a break off the price, and that may help you out on the margin. But you got to make sure that friend or that family member that's working for your electrician, your plumber, your drywall guy is actually doing a good job, because typically, no matter how related they are to you or how good of a relationship you have, money in business always is a separate ball game. With friends and family, with anybody, it just makes people do things different. They can be the closest cousin, the closest brother-in-law, the closest sister-in-law, the closest brother. But when it comes to money, it's always that there's a dichotomy between relationships and money.
Always.
It's a dark gray area between.
Yeah, and it could lead to families breaking apart.
Yes.
It can lead to people feeling jealous or envious of one person, and then they're going to say, well, I work just as much as you do. Why am I not getting that much? Like, it's a very, very dicey thing, and you have to be very careful who you work with and what you do with them. But building your network, creating a really good rapport with those contractors that work out well for you. Wholesalers, by the way, was a way that we've been able to find houses. That's also part of the network of contractors, the wholesaler.
Yeah, so that's actually the easiest process that we have learned over the last year, is working with wholesalers. And the way this works, and it really doesn't work with lender financing on wholesale, because the lenders require an appraisal value, they require inspection, and they don't. It's typically 30 days. Wholesalers want to get in and they want to get out. They don't want any flags or any kind of wrenches thrown at them. Wholesalers, they look for distressed properties or properties from sellers that don't want to go through the process of listing their property. They're typically, their mortgages are clear. They had a death in the family. They were widowed. They want out of a property quickly, painlessly. They're willing to take a pay cut on the sale of their property, but you got to move fast on it, and you got to have cash, and you got to just throw in 7-10 days, quick close. I want that property, and do your due diligence within a few minutes. Get good at it. Look up the appraisal district. Have your realtor look up the comps in the area. Kind of do the math in your head. Walk the property once. Generalize it, and get the deal done. If you want to get ahead of everybody else, because the second a wholesaler gets hold of a property, they have a network, they have investors. A Rolodex of investors, so you're going to be arguing with all of them. So you can't be on their shit list, in other words.
Yeah, and we got to treat them well.
Yep.
We got to bring them a bottle of wine every once in a while. That's for sure. That's our favorite. That's our favorite way of schmoozing.
Yeah,
people.
wholesaling is one thing. Wholesaling is one option to get a house. Another option is to
know somebody.
That wants to sell a house. That's an easy process. Of course, you can go the auction route, but you got to be registered with an auction house or with a vendor, and that's one of those things you kind of learn how it goes. You're going to be bidding amongst a lot of people, and typically on the auction deal, you don't get to walk the property.
Yeah.
On the inside, it's sight unseen. You can see it from the outside. You could probably see some of the pictures, but you don't get that feel of the house. So there's higher risk in an auction property.
Yeah, I think I would be uncomfortable doing auctions myself, just because I'm one of those people that needs to walk through something and feel it out. That's just how I feel. And I feel like a lot of people say, well, contractors can't. I just want to stress how important it is to really find contractors that you trust, that will work with you, and that you can take them from one property to another and from one project to another, and that are willing to work with you, because a lot of times, we have to make exceptions for them. Like, they don't show up on time.
Right.
We understand that their family life is a little bit different than ours.
Right.
Our time frames, we say we're going to be there at 10, we show up at 10. For a lot of contractors, 10 o'clock is 10:30, 10:45.
Right.
So if you're going to be flipping houses, you have to have an understanding of the people that are going to come work for you.
Right.
Obviously, we had one house, the one we did at Lugari, and we had a contractor. We had a general contractor, and he took care of everything.
It was great.
But it was fantastic, but we paid a little bit more money for that. But we said, okay, are we willing to pay a little bit more for that peace of mind? And we said, what? Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Right. And
Absolutely.
Sometimes it's worth it, because if you get a good general contractor that can handle the electrical, the plumbing, the flooring, the paint, and he's there actually working with his guys, that's even a huge plus, because a lot of general contractors, they just subcontract, they don't show up, and then it just kind of delays the process, because everyone, I have to reemphasize this part, is this is an investment. This is not emotional. This is about getting the best return for your money. And time is an important component of getting an investment. There are formulas you plug in for how long your money is being tied up in an investment, and to sell that investment and then redeploy that investment. The more the times you can roll over that money, the opportunity cost of capital, the better your return is in a fixed amount of time, 12 months or 18 months or 24 months. But typically people look at a 12-month period. So it's not a good idea to take a 1,500 square foot house and take 3 months to rehab it. Have all your ducks in order. Have your contractors lined up and get them in, get them out. A 1,500 square foot house with foundation issues, some flooring, some paint, redoing the cabinets. It shouldn't take you more than 4 to 5 weeks. If you're on top of everybody, if you micromanage the time frame, if you set those expectations from the beginning, and if you have to pay an extra $1,000 or $2,000, which to them is an extra 10 to 12% for their profit, right? That's how they see it. And if you pay them extra to get the house done, and you get that house sold, you get to redeploy the capital, buy yourself another property. That continues to improve your NOI, continues to improve the opportunity capital, the OCC, the opportunity cost of capital, the percentage, the internal rate of return. You get to plug, because that's all it's about. It's just about making those numbers higher in terms of what you can do elsewhere with that money. It's not emotional. You can't say, I'm going to take 4 or 5 months to do a house for 1,500 square feet. You're wasting time. You're not doing it right.
And I just want to reemphasize this as well. We learned all of these things that we're telling you guys about today in a year. I mean, it really was like intense immersion and like learning things and really taking the time to kind of like, okay, well, what are the trends out there? What are the colors? What are the schemes? What are we going to do in terms of the property area? I know one thing that I work on the most with this partnership is that I really look at the neighborhood, and I look at how we can incorporate the spice or the culture of the neighborhood into our house, and to make it stand out and make it special and different. Because if we are going to be doing what everybody else is doing in terms of investment, then what are we doing that's different and unique and special? And one thing and one comment that we get a lot is, I really like the floors you picked, or I really like the color of the wall, or that kitchen was very unique. I mean, our hammock house is the most beautiful kitchen. It was completely custom. It's beautiful, gorgeous,
We opened up the
handcrafted.
area, right.
And, you could think, well, why would you do something so amazing and so special in a neighborhood that's just so run down? Because a lot of those houses are giving the same thing, or giving vanilla. They're
Right.
giving vanilla to everybody. So how are we going to stand out and make it different? We added technology. We added something that we thought, maybe a more millennial couple, a younger couple would appreciate.
Sure.
We added security. We added keyless door entry. I mean, there's
Right.
a few components in there that were very thoughtful in the way we wanted to create something unique and special for this house.
Absolutely. It's an art to do this. The other thing is it has to be fun. And you don't, the thing is that we've come across other house flippers. They do a lot of generic stuff. It's a lot of white walls or gray walls and a lot of white.
It's always the
and you
same.
got to put an extra touch into the house. You have to show that there's a little bit of thought that goes into it, that it's not just a quick flip, that you went out there and took the time to find a more decorative or geometric tile for the backsplash or for the floors, or you found some interesting tile that goes in the shower walls, or some interesting different paint colors. You don't want to go crazy. You don't want to go for something that's not for the masses either. I'm not talking about doing some red, white, and blues on the kitchen
course.
cabinets. Of course, neutral colors, earth colors, stuff that anybody can add their own touches to when they decide that they want the house, but something a little bit different. And I think that kind of helps you kind of stand out, just like you have to stand out any kind of creative or right brain business.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes our houses a little bit more special and more unique, that we do incorporate some unique geometric patterns. I'm a big fan of, for example, Chris Pardo design. So whenever I go and see what he does, I get inspiration from what he does, and he combines different patterns. He's really big in doing these beautiful wallpapers.
Yeah.
I mean, colors are just so amazing and gorgeous. And I think it's something that makes us stand out a little bit more in terms of investments and things that people say, oh, let's go see their house.
Right.
It's got to have like a unique take on it and something special.
No, we've learned a lot from Chris. Chris is our partner out there in the Virgin Islands, the hotel gig that we have, the investment out there. We just came back from there and we checked on the properties, and he's done some amazing designs. That's not necessarily something you would apply to a house that you're trying to sell to the majority of the market, but it kind of gives you an idea that you can do something just a little toned down that would still has some appeal to it, but at the same time you're doing something different than just white subway tile on a backsplash or some,
which is what everybody's doing.
Right? Or for a while we did the typical 80-cent floor decor, 6x12 ceramic tiles on the floors. Everybody's doing that. I got tired of doing that. I figured you could stand out a little bit and maybe get an offer on a property if you do something that they're not seeing it, but still kind of in that realm of a neutral color, but just a little bit different.
Exactly. Yep. I love it. And if you guys want to check out his design aesthetic, follow the Arrive Hotels.
Yep.
And that's his design. All of that is him. And it's just been an inspiration for me just to see what he's doing. All right. Point number 5, and this is our last one. Buy, renovate, and sell your property. What happens when you're about to sell that property that you've renovated and you're about to sell it? What are you going to do now?
So right before you sell it, obviously you want to get somebody to clean it up for you.
Yeah, of course. Oh, we have the best lady that cleans the houses for us.
In terms of selling the house, I like to implement flexibility. I like to leave something for the buyer to put their own 2 cents in, where the seller says for the right price, whether it's an appliance package, whether it's an addition to a closet. You don't like the closet, it's not big enough, or you want to change the color of the cabinets. I leave something for them to put their own 2 touches on for the right price, because ultimately most people are going to get a 30-year mortgage, 4 to 5% interest rate, and it's going to cost them, $5,000 to repaint the cabinets, and you're selling the house for $300,000, let's say, but they're going to say, I want the house for $290,000. But 10 years over 30 years at a 5% interest rate, it may cost them $1,000 extra in down payment, but only an extra $30, $40 a month. But you're willing to repaint the cabinets for $5,000 or $4,000. That they don't have to do that. They get their own touch. You show flexibility, and you still get an extra $3,000 or $4,000. Instead of going down to $290, you're now down to $295, and they pay $295. So it's kind of a win-win for everybody, because at the end of the day, my philosophy, it has to be a win-win for both.
Yeah.
But don't redo everything on the house. Don't say I put in all these appliances and all this stuff, and because then you're kind of limiting limiting the option to what people say. Well, I don't like stainless. I want black appliance. Or I don't like black. I want a stainless steel appliance. Then you have to redo all of it. Put in a couple appliances and then leave the other appliances open.
Yeah, I think you and I tend to leave the refrigerator out because it tends to be a very personal purchase
Washer
for people.
and dryers.
Yeah, and washer and dryers. Yeah, some people are very picky about what they kind of want on those things, and that's great. I mean, that's fine. That's a great little leverage that we always provide for them, so they can add their own touch. Because some houses come with everything already in it, and then it doesn't allow for the buyer to add their own little 2 cents, you know. And it's really nice to have that opportunity.
Have your realtor list that on the broker agreements between the realtors, or even put it on the public deal. That people, what you're doing is you're alluding and you're indicating that you're flexible, that you're willing to work with the buyer. Yeah. And you know, if you're doing a house in the 60s or 70s, offer a home warranty. Tell them you'll cover the home warranty for them. You know, that's because that way they'll have at least for 1 year, maybe the air conditioning or the heater that might go out, or some major appliance that'll get covered. And that kind of, you know, it's only $500 typically for an average home warranty, and that kind of gives them a peace of mind that they're not have to put up a major cost of investment right up front when they move in.
Yeah, those are really good tips. So I think just wanted to make one thing clear, that flipping houses isn't easy. I know that they make it look very simple on TV and all that. You have to have the stomach for it, and you have to have the motivation to go into these houses, and sometimes, you know, argue with contractors that are not doing a good job and just insist on it's great. Like, no, it's not. You're not doing good. Like, have that conversation with these people, but have it in a very dignified way. I think that's one thing that we definitely dignify every single person that comes and works in our house. Absolutely. Like, we never treat them like they're our employees or partners for us, and we make them feel that way. But even when they do make mistakes, it's like, I know that we need to work on this, and they always fix it for us. They say, oh, don't worry, I got you, I'll fix it. I know. Sometimes they'll send a worker in, you know, like the other day we had somebody send somebody in for plumbing, and it wasn't the main plumber, and it didn't work out well. So the main plumber came in and said, let me fix it for you. I'm sorry, my employee, you know, I'm not here to see it and do quality control, but
you get that customer service because you stay loyal to them. If they do 95% good work, then they're bound to make a mistake every now and then. We all make mistakes, but the good thing is that when you stay loyal and you pay them well and you pay them on time, they'll come back and you're not going to be chasing them around more often than not. Of course, there's always bad apples out there, but most of the time, if you say, hey, you know, they give you a price for $2,000 to do the plumbing, you negotiate a little bit, maybe $1,700, and then you pay them half up front, you pay them half when they're done, and then they're happy to give them the work. Then you give them the second house, you give them the third house, and they realize that you're using them over and over. They're getting repeat business. You just get better customer service out of it.
The other thing is, like, you know, you're going to see money leaving your bank account on a consistent basis because you're paying people. And I think people start to panic. Oh, I can't deal with that. I can't deal with that. But you've got to stay the course and be patient and see that at the end, when that house sells, you'll be able to recoup all of that. But I think a lot of people panic and think, oh, I don't think I have 30, 40 grand. Well, again, this is only if you're doing it as an additional income stream. This isn't going to be the end all be all for anybody.
This is not money that you want to do
unless you're doing like a lot of properties at one time. And you're a business.
You don't want to do this if this is all the money you have. This is money that you don't need for the foreseeable future. It's just basic common investing principles.
Yeah. All right, guys. We have reached the end of the episode. I'm so grateful that you guys are listening. If you feel that you've gotten some really good stuff. I would like to add one other thing
real quick.
Go ahead.
So I don't think we talked about the cash flow model, the rental option. And I think I get a lot of that. People like to...
You know what? Yeah, we didn't. I didn't even think about that.
That's not for us, and that's not our circumstance, and that's not what our expectations are. The cash flow, the rental model works. You typically are easier to get a lender finance on a cash flow model if you want to rent the house out, because you really don't need to come down. You don't really need to do a lot of repairs on the house, and the appraisal and on the rental typically comes a little bit higher for you to get that lender financing. But you have to keep in mind that the return on a rental more often than not is a long-term play. If you have financed a house and your mortgage on the house is now $1,000 and you're charging $1,300 rent, and assuming that you're a handy person that you can do your own maintenance on the house, you're walking away with about $300, which is $3,600 a year. That doesn't seem like a lot of money, but On a rental property, it's the asset appreciation over many years where there's a payday. That's not how I like to do things or how we like to do things. I like to take that money, redeploy it, and continuously pound away at that internal rate of return all the time. You can do it that way. That works for some people.
Okay.
They want that $1,300, that extra $400 or $500 coming in every month that helps them pay some bills, and then they're hoping that 20 years down the road, a house they bought for $200 is now worth $350 or $375. They get to sell that house, and that helps them with the retirement or relief pressure. That's a great model too. That works, but just keep in mind, if you do that, it's like, oh, I'm only making $300 a month, and so that doesn't do anything. So that's not a good way if you need. If you want to improve those numbers that I talked about, the opportunity castle capital, that's not a good option for that. That's a very long-term play that works out over the long term. And there is a good podcast that I recommend that people listen to. It's called Passive Real Estate Investing, and by Marco Santarelli. He's a very no-frills, basic, rudimentary guy for just the average investor out there. Listen to his podcast. He has about, I think, 40 or 50 of them now. You don't have to listen to all of them, but you can look at the titles, and he tells you about how, kind of what I had just explained, how to go about doing the same thing in both options, a rental model or the flipping model. He goes through both of them, and he'll let you. He teaches you how to count the numbers. I had a background in finance in college, and I've taken some courses at MIT and stuff like that online, and so I wasn't listening to that. I just want to see if there's any secrets to the trade, but there really isn't any secrets to the trade. You look at the appraisal district, you get the comps, you kind of go over what you think it's going to cost. If you don't know it's your first house, get a contractor, get an estimate, and then realize how fast can you do it. And if you're walking away or 10 or 15,000, is that worth your time?
Exactly.
And it's only worth your time if you do it quick. You can't do this and have it done in 6 months and then say I only made $10,000, and you're going to beat yourself up. That was way too much effort for too long of a time. But if you're doing this every 30, 45, 60 days, and you're making 15, 20, or 25,000 or whatever, then you feel better about it. And you feel better about doing it.
Yeah, and maybe partner up with another investor, somebody who has experience, and then get your feet wet so that you can go off and do it on your own. But it's always a good idea to look at resources and research as much as you can of everything that you're doing. Learn about what you're doing. Like I'm addicted to these investment podcasts too now. Like I'm listening to real estate investment podcasts. Why? Because if I'm doing something, I want to be really good at it, and I want to know as much as I can about what I'm doing.
Don't worry about failing. You can't learn how to walk if you're worried about tripping. And it's just, you have to put yourself out there, and you can't really fail in real estate in Houston or in Texas. We're not in Florida. We're not in California. We're not in these scarce land situations on the beach somewhere where you have this huge appreciation asset over 4 or 5 years, and then the market crashes and then the asset goes down. This is a very kind of leveled market. If you just do your numbers, you really can't fail at it. Just don't buy a house that has an HCAT value of 220 and the asking price is 230. You're not going to make money that way. There has to be a margin in what you think is worth. The typical is 10 to 15% below the HCAT, and then you can add an extra 10 or 15% that you'll probably sell it for, and then do the numbers.
Yeah, I mean, don't find excuses. If it's something you want to do, you can do it. If you need to borrow money from somebody or maybe go in with partners, don't do it all by yourself. Go in on it at the beginning with another person to kind of get your feet wet. And
like
then you could, like anything else. Again, like Russ said, don't, worry about the tripping if you're learning how to walk. Like just start and start doing. And we're in a really great place right now where, I think that the market is just really hot right now, and and it's happening, and it's going really well. And
we got 4 homes on the market. We have 4 homes we're doing right now. One's been on the market for 35 days. We just put another property in the market. Our realtor Rachel Allen just listed it yesterday. Within less than 24 hours, we already have an offer $10K above asking price, and we had that house done in less than 4.5 weeks.
And that's when we hired that general contractor who took care of everything and really made it super seamless and really easy for us.
We're working on another one out there in Spring Branch that hopefully it'll be done. And if it wasn't for the foundation taking 3 weeks for the contractor to come out there, we'd be wrapping it up.
We'd be done by now.
We'd be wrapping it up here.
I'm excited. Thank you so much for being here today.
Of course.
And I think we gave some really great information and some awesome ideas if they want to do some flipping. Again, guys, if you like what you hear, if everything resonates with you, let us know what you think. Post a review, share our podcast with your friends, let everybody know you're listening in. We have information, we have inspiration, we talk about business, travel, and lifestyle. As always, you can find me at Vibes by Alicia on Instagram and also my business Instagram account at thinking_boutique.
Right.
I'm really excited and I'm so grateful for you today.
Thank you. I am too, for having you as a partner. We work well together.
Thank you. I think we do.
You don't step on my toes, and that's all that matters. Just kidding.
I learned it the hard way.
Get out of my way.
Yes,
the only thing I have to say at the very end is don't talk about doing something, go out there and do it. Right.
Execute.
Life's too short
That's
to have ideas.
It's the difference in the success. Execution. Yep. People think about it, they go over it, and then they never do it.
Yep.
Do it, guys.
Yep.
You heard it here. Thank you, guys. See y'all next time.
Bye.
Bye.